What's the point of making a city builder if I can't use it to abuse my PC? Despite having a whole list of bugs to fix, features to improve, and balancing changes to do, I decided to put all that aside in favor of making a really big city! It does make some sense though. I want to make sure the game is optimized for scale, so it doesn't end up being like Cities Skylines 2 on release. Teeth! Speaking of releasing, look at this logo. Isn't it nice? I made it! And then I paid $100 to put it on a Steam page. So, please now go there and wishlist Hexburg. Link in the description. Now, I already talked about how I use dots to not have to worry about the performance of the little con people I have running around the game. But everything else is a different story, because all the buildings are good old regular Unity game objects, so they require some more tricks to optimize. Some of you may now be wondering, why didn't you just use dots for the buildings too? To test performance, I need to be able to make a giant city without being limited by some pesky gameplay or game balance. So, let's make some cheats. First off, I made this command that instantly unlocks all tiles in the game, normally locked behind milestones, such as the fishery, the bank, the tailor, and who can forget, the gold mine. Yes, I haven't gotten around to modeling them yet, shut up, Blender is hard. Next, I don't want to manually buy all the areas of the map, so here's a cheat that instantly buys them all. There's also this cheat for instantly bulldozing natural blockers, and finally, it's really annoying when people starve and complain about it, so here's a command that makes all the resources infinite. Now, with borders eradicated, obstacles to progress removed, and everyone having all their needs met at all times, I have achieved full communism! Also, I can test the game performance. There are three main types of objects that can significantly impact the graphics performance: buildings, props, and fields. Let's go over how I tried to optimize all of them, so that I can tease you a bit longer before showing you the giant city I made. Let's start with the fields. Here, I actually ended up using dots again, because I needed every plant to be a separate object in order to place them correctly on uneven terrain. Just another headache caused by the brilliant decision of adding terrain elevation mid-development. They use this neat foliage shader that allows them to sway in the wind and have some color variation, and I used this dot system to make them actually grow and change color. I'm pretty pleased with how that one turned out. One gameplay feature I still have to add is so that they don't grow in what is theoretically the middle of winter, but that's for later. For the props, I actually went and bought the GPU Instancer plugin, not sponsored, so that all the stuff is nice in GPU instance, meaning more or less that the GPU only has to do a single piece of work to render a type of object, no matter how many instances of it exist in the scene. This is essentially the same thing that Dots does for its rendering, but without all the data-oriented stuff. Now, the buildings. All the buildings in the game share the same texture file, so it significantly lowers how costly it is for the GPU to render them. Additionally, they're blocky as hell, in part because I'm aiming for this PSX style aesthetic, but also because their low poly count improves performance. Also, as a quick side note, I made it so that certain tiles with buildings can now form these dense districts and pops can scurry around them too. Makes it easier to recreate that slum-like feel of medieval cities, by not having nice wide roads everywhere. Okay, enough nerd shit, let's start placing a city! I started a new game and rolled a very polished name for a city, Stavisky. I took a look around the starting area and decided it's good enough for the mega city. So, I popped into the console, enabled Sandbox mode, and started cleaning out the natural blockers to have a blank canvas to work with. Once I had that, I went into the build menu and started placing the roads. I didn't really care where I placed them as long as they provided me with a scaffold for building the rest of the city. After the roads were down, I started placing some infrastructure. Markets, churches, graveyards, some industry, stuff like that. Bear in mind that since I'm in Sandbox mode, I don't really care about in-game viability of this city, I just want it to look cool. Once I had that, I started to finally fill in the gaps with housing for the masses in various states of having been washed to pour in. Currently the population growth is very dependent on the amount of free housing, so it'll explode as soon as all these tiles finish building. These scaffolding models are actually less optimized than the buildings themselves, so the FPS not dropping below 60 even now is a very promising sign. Now we have buildings as far as the eye can see, and we're still above a stable 120 FPS. Take that, city's skylines. And here come the people. 1,000 of them almost instantly. Look at them swarming around the streets like little low poly ants. As you've probably noticed though, there's a pretty significant and regular lag spike happening. After doing some profiling later, I found it's being caused by the pathfinding map for pops being updated every in-game week. It can be fixed, but for this test build of the game, it'll unfortunately keep happening. I tried to check the population statistics panel, but clearly I fucked up somewhere when making it, and it's almost completely inaccurate. That unemployment rate is really something. When I started to expand the city beyond the start island, I discovered that a significant percentage of the city's population is Jesus. But after that I was finished. All that was left was to enjoy the show and line up the camera for a good thumbnail pic. So, what did we learn? Well, I found a bunch of minor bugs to fix and learned that there's a simulation bottleneck connected to the pathfinding, but aside from that, the performance is pretty damn good. I'm happy with it for now, which means I can start to focus more on gameplay features I have piling up in my backlog, so stay tuned for updates on that. Feel free to comment any feedback or questions you have about the game, like the video, and subscribe to the channel for more devlogs. Also remember to purchase the game on Steam too. Okay, bye!